What's up everyone, it's Mobius Y back here again, and thanks for coming to this video. It's not really a gameplay video, I'm just going over something here. With update 1.8 looming overhead of us, figured I'd go over the patch notes with you guys to dispel some of those conspiracy theories that I'm sure are going to be roaming around. My tank got nerfed, this got changed, blah blah blah. No, trust me, if it's not in the patch notes, it didn't happen. So, going to quash these conspiracies right now for you. I'm going to go over the update 1.8 patch notes, which were posted by the lovely Nix on the World of Tanks Xbox 360 forums in the news and announcements section. So, starting off, here's what it reads. As promised, here are the patch notes for 1.8. As a reminder, updates with numbers primarily indicates features and bug fixes. Updates with names indicate content like maps and tanks. So there's no real new tanks or content coming in this one. It's strictly just bug fixes and all that jazz for the most part. This one has a number, but not a name. There will be a content update with a name later this month. Ooh. And here's the important bit here. Also, there are a couple of surprises in there for Thursday. Those have been deliberately omitted from the patch notes so as not to spoil the surprise. We're kind of expecting this to be something, a lot of people are speculating that it'll be, Japanese tanks or maybe the additional Russian mediums. Who knows? It's all speculation. We'll find out on Thursday. So moving right along, let's just jump right into these patch notes here, starting with that new features tab there. New features. Our community has requested more customization options for their tanks, and we've come up with a new way for you to deck out your vehicles. We have worked hard and created a new paint scheme option, the Urban Camo. Because the urban camo scheme will be displayed on urban maps instead of the usual summer scheme, you will receive a permanent urban camo on every tank that has a permanent summer camo. The permanent summer camo must be equipped at the time of the update. So that means those of you who have actually bought permanent camo, I have a couple on a couple of my tanks, you will have to go back and reapply a permanent summer camo, as a permanent urban camo will already be chosen for you when this update is downloaded. The urban maps will be Fisherman's Bay, Siegfried Line, Himmelsdorf Night, surprise, Angst, Wide Park, Port, and Highway. That's actually quite a few maps, and it's basically every map with a sizable town section is being considered an urban map, it seems. To further help our new players, we have added dialogue boxes to notify players if they have enough experience to research a package on their Tier 2, as well as a dialogue if they have enough silver to research a Tier 2. Sorry, I guess you meant to purchase a Tier 2 there. If you are a veteran or have already progressed well past Tier 2, you probably will not see these notifications. Fair enough. We have gone a bit further with the garage reskin. In this update, you can look forward to a new look for the tech tree and garage stat bars, tank details, and an improvement in the tech tree performance. Fair enough. Reduced some package research costs. We have adjusted the animation when you ping map sectors so they will be more noticeable on the minimap. That's great. Really handy for when I'm pinging those guys camping at our base over and over and over. Bounty Sheriff Mode implemented. Not sure what that is. Keep an eye on the forums and portal for these special events. Okay, fair enough. So, the ones that really caught my eye there were the reduced some package research costs. That'll be big for those doing grinds. Although it wasn't exactly specific which packages were reduced or which modules. As well as adjusting the animation when you ping map sectors. That'll be big. Because then people can actually notice where you're pinging. Because usually when you ping somewhere and it's well outside somebody's compass range, they just see a little kind of ping off in the corner somewhere. They're like, oh, I don't have to worry about that. It's not within my close proximity. So maybe that'll change. We'll see. So moving on to the map updates and balance. Looks like we got a bit of a list here. Terrain and gameplay improvements have been made on the following maps: Arctic Region, Cliff, Elhaluf, Angst, Erlenberg, Fisherman's Bay, Karelia, Komarin, Malinovka, Mines, Province, Redshire, and South Coast. So quite a few maps. Abbey Encounter. After feedback, base and flag placement have been moved to EF67. So that still sounds like it's somewhere in the middle area there, probably on the more eastern side of the town. Arctic Region Standard. Because of the terrain update, standard battle bases and flags have been moved to C0 and J2. So that sounds like somewhere near the top right corner and closer to the bottom left corner, as opposed to just due north-south in the very middle there. El Halif encounter. Due to the terrain update, the encounter base and flag have been moved to F6. So that's somewhere a little bit more on the eastern side of the map. Sounds like it's in the valley still, and closer to the south side there by the water on El Halif. Feel free to look these up on your own to clarify specifically for me. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm going strictly off of my memory here. Malinovka Assault. Due to the terrain update and further tested feedback, the assault base and flag have been moved to J4, which is the bottom left corner, pretty much. And the attacking team starts on the hill. So it's basically backwards now, where the defenders would spawn on top of the hill and defend the flag up there. It's now the other way around. The attackers spawn on top of the hill. The defenders are at the very bottom, in that lower left corner on the map. Malinovka Encounter. Due to the terrain update and further tested feedback, the encounter base and flag have been moved to A0. Thank God! Unfortunately, when it was in the open field there in the lower left corner, just in front of those buildings, it was actually way more balanced, and then they decided to move it to where half of the flag was inside a building and giving one team a huge capping advantage. It was... ugh. I'm not sure what the thinking was behind there. It really doesn't matter. Anyways, so... Malinovka Encounter moved to A0. Sounds like it's at the very top of the hill in the very top right corner. Very interesting. Looks like basically where all the big heavy battles are on Malinovka now, in that top right corner by the windmill. That's pretty much where the encounter flag is going to be from the sounds of things. And lastly, Westfield Standard. Spawn points for standard battle have been adjusted slightly for balance. Fair enough. Nothing specific there. We'll find out when the update drops. But the big ones that caught my eye... terrain and gameplay improvements have been made on the following maps: Camp Haluf, Kampenberg, Camp Arin, and Malinovka, which has been complained about since the day it came out. Oh, this is so much better. I really hope this fixes a lot of gameplay issues with El Halif, Erlenberg, and Komarin and Malinovka and how people play them, especially El Halif and Erlenberg. It's just absolute nightmare playing those maps with people who don't know what they're doing. Unfortunately, this won't change everybody playing them the way you would hope. Because, you know, once a camper, always a camper. Somebody finds a sweet spot and they sit there for one game not really knowing what to do, and they play an awesome game, and they go, oh my god, I'm gonna always go to this spot! And they go there game after game after game after game after game, hoping for that one more awesome game because the spot is so awesome. Never mind the 300 battles in between that awesome game, which are complete shit. Anyways, rant over. Moving right along. So that's the map updates and balance section here. So, just to clarify as well, there was another Wargaming employee on the forum somewhere else that specified all the maps listed are now the latest versions of the maps from PC. So all of the PC updates for enhanced gameplay and more team balance on all of the maps, all of those terrain features and all that jazz, all the flag placements, they are the most recent updated versions of the maps directly from the PC version of World of Tanks, which is awesome. They seem to just be way more balanced, and they just play a lot better from the looks of things. But, you know, we'll see how it goes. So moving right along, now here we go. These are probably the things that everybody really actually cares about. Tank adjustments. So, Nyx was actually quite clear in what she was referring to here. Close piercing power, penetration at close range. Far piercing power, penetration at far range. Because a lot of the rounds used in this game do lose some pen over longer distances. It's not a huge amount, and it depends on the round being used. But that doesn't really matter. Anyways, moving on. Movement dispersion factor, how large your aiming reticule gets while moving. So that is while your tank is moving. Rotation dispersion factor, how large your aiming reticule gets while rotating in place. Now that is moving your chassis without actually moving the tank. Turret rotation dispersion factor, how large your aiming reticule gets while rotating your turret. Now that is strictly rotating your turret. Fire rate, amount of time between shots. Reload time, time it takes to load a shell and be ready to fire. I would figure that those are the same thing, but like I said, I'm just a dumb white kid. So, moving on. Aiming time, time for reticule to shrink from maximum size to minimum size. So basically, the time it would take from getting the biggest possible reticule you can on that tank to getting the smallest possible reticule you can. Health, hit points for component, whether it's a module or the whole tank itself. Vision radius, the distance at which you can see tanks around you. That's a given. Now, she notes here that a decrease in dispersion factor means a smaller maximum reticule. So, if a dispersion factor is decreased, that means that the aiming reticule will actually be smaller, and the gun or the tank the gun on the specific tank or the tank itself is actually shooting more accurately during any of these, particular hull or turret movements. So the first set of tank buffs, the M26 Pershing, the AP M77 shell on the 90mm T15 E2 M2 gun on all turrets, close piercing power increased and far piercing power increased. So basically, the M26 Pershing got a penetration increase on the 90mm gun T15 E2 M2. So that sounds pretty nice. It already had a pretty punchy gun, so now it just makes it even more effective. So, a reminder, a decrease in dispersion factor means a smaller maximum reticule. That's important to remember for these next couple buffs. So, moving on, M46 Patton. M46 Patton chassis, movement dispersion decreased, rotation dispersion decreased. Altogether, both types of chassis there. The 105mm gun T5E1 M2, dispersion radius decreased, turret rotation dispersion factor decreased. Basically, every movement accuracy penalty on the 105mm gun has been decreased, so it's more accurate when rotating the turret or moving. And that's one of the strengths of the 46 Patton that I mentioned in the M46 Patton tank talk, is that the 105mm gun has pretty dang good accuracy while on the move or while rotating the turret or whatever, so it's a really good pop and shotter. Now, this next bit here, just like with the Pershing, the AP M77 shell on the 90mm guns for the M46 Patton also all got a penetration buff. 90mm gun on the M36, 90mm gun on the T15 E2 M2. They all got a penetration buff at all ranges. That is pretty huge, so it's going to make the M46 Patton 90mm grind quite a bit easier for those of you going up that line. It can be a little bit painful using that 90mm in a tier 9 tank, but this should make it a little bit easier. And with that final upgraded 105mm gun, it should just be an improvement all around, so it should feel more awesome to those of us who play it fairly regularly. Moving on, we're going to jump now to the M48 A1 Patton buffs. Only a couple things here. The 90mm gun M41, the AP M77 standard ammo on the 90mm gun for the M48 A1, close piercing power increased and far piercing power increased. So it got an overall penetration buff on the 90mm gun for the M48 Patton. Now, at first it didn't make any sense to me why this happened, but looking back, it's essentially the AP M77 round itself that got a penetration buff all across the board. It was the same for the Pershing, it was the same for the M46 Patton, and it's the same for the M48 A1 Patton. It's not specifically the guns themselves, it's more the AP M77 type of round itself that got a penetration buff. It didn't make sense to me on the M48 because that 90mm gun is only available on the stock M48 A1 Patton, which you should be able to skip right over anyways because you are required to research the first 105mm gun available on the M48 Patton. It gets researched when you fully elite the M46 Patton while going up that line. So it didn't make much sense at first, and then somebody pointed out it's the same type of round, so maybe that's why. And I said, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. I felt pretty stupid. Alright, so moving right along, here's a big one. Huge buffs here. The Panzerkampfwagen 6, the Tiger tank, tier 7 heavy. Okay, so the 10.5 centimeter Quak 42 L28. So the 10.5 centimeter L48 on the turret Panzerkampfwagen Tiger OS E turret. So the stock as well as the OS H2 turret, the stock as well as the upgraded turret. Rotation dispersion factor decreased on both turrets, so the gun will be more accurate during turret rotations. The 7.5 centimeter Glock 42 L70 fire rate increased and reload time decreased. Again, the same gun, Glock 42 L70 7.5 centimeter, turret rotation dispersion factor decreased. Pretty cool. So it sounds like that gun basically got a turret rotation accuracy buff as well as an overall rate of fire buff. That same gun on the other turret, the 6H off at H2, exact same buffs, rate of fire buff, reload time buff, turret rotation dispersion factor decrease. So it sounds like the 7.5 centimeter Glock 42 L70 gun itself got an overall rate of fire and turret rotation accuracy buff. Now the 8.8 centimeter gun looks like it got the exact same buffs as well. The 8.8 L56 gun. Fire rate and reload time, fire rate increased, reload time decreased, turret rotation dispersion factor decreased on both the stock and the upgraded turret, which is pretty cool. But that's not all of the Tiger buffs. We've also got 8.8 centimeter Glock 43 L71 aiming time decreased, as well as a rate of fire increased, reload time decreased, and turret rotation dispersion factor decreased, which is pretty crazy. So the Tiger tank got a lot of buffs to all of its guns from the looks of it. Accuracy buffs while rotating the turret, as well as general rate of fire buffs, and one of them even got an aiming time buff. But here's the big one that probably caught a lot of people's eyes right away. Panzerkampfwagen 6 Tiger's health increased. Tiger OS HE health increased for the upgraded and the stock turret. Sorry. Let me say that again. Both copies of the Tiger turret, both the stock turret and the upgraded turret, got a health boost as well as a view range boost. So couple those with the fact that the Tiger now has slightly more accurate guns and faster firing guns, it can really make use of the Tiger's well-known role as a sniper tank. Well, not so much a sniper tank, just a more long-range engaging heavy tank. So that's pretty awesome. That's what caught a lot of people's eye on the forums. There was a lot of discussion about that. It looks like a lot of people are going to be rebuying their Tigers or just playing their Tigers even more. I know Ice7 really loves his Tiger heavy tank, so that's pretty cool. So moving right along from there, going on to some bug fixes. Art-wise, locomotive engines were not receiving shot decals. Guess they are now. Adjusted collision for machine gun pillbox environmental objects. Fair enough. Scaled down the sizes of the benches found in towns. Adjusted collision on the Indian Panzer for proper shot collision. Added destroyed states for several French turrets. Now, that's one that caught my eye, is scaled down the sizes of the benches found in towns. Thank God. Maybe they won't be so frickin' unstoppable to my 60-ton tank. I have been killed because I got stuck on a stupid bench more times than I can count. It's absolutely aggravating. Now, the audio bug fixes. Fixed audio feedback for volumes options. Added proper sound effects for pumpkin shrapnel. Adjusted the overlap between the battle queue music and the map loading screen music. Updated music for tank purchase celebration to in-house composed music. Fair enough. Added a trigger to stop the tank purchase celebration music if the cinematic is cancelled after the music starts. Fixed the scenario where if you cancel a tank purchase celebration after the music start, then buy another tank the music will not play. Sorry. That didn't make much sense to me at first. Okay, so it sounds like if you cancel when you purchase a new tank, and it's going through the whole you bought a new tank thing, if you cancel it early, the music will stop, and if you buy another tank, the music would not play again because you canceled it early. So it sounds like they fixed that. If you cancel the first one early, the music stops, and if you start up a new, and then if you buy a second tank right away, the music will actually play. I had to wrap my head around that one for a second there. Sorry about that. Moving on. Removed double audio when dismounting complex equipment. Makes sense. Now I'm really curious about this added proper sound effects for pumpkin shrapnel. I'm excited for that one. Maybe they just make a little proper squish sound after running over them. I'll have to try that out sometime on highway. Alright, general gameplay. Implemented a fix for tracerless shots. All shots fired should display a noticeable tracer. Can't really say I've ever noticed that issue. but this could help with some people that scream hacker all the time, you know, because there's always those people around. Alright, so general user interface improvements. Decreased the hitch when entering the ops screen. That did get a little bit annoying. Sometimes you'd switch from your garage tab to the ops tab and it would take a couple seconds. Fair enough. Significant tech tree UI optimizations. Okay, well, I'll have to look back at what that is when the update rolls out. Tanks in your stats tab now show if the tank is elite, premium, or standard. That's good to know at a quick glance. Adjusted waiting, ready, downloading, and training reinforcement text to be off-white rather than red. Fair enough. Adjusted icons for the getting started and download complete reward screens. In the garage, we have removed the Xbox buttons that are not being used. They will appear when an action is required to use them. Okay, so that's when it's at the bottom of the screen saying you can do something. Removed code, resources, and server from the bottom right of the screen during tank purchase celebrations. Okay. Notification of completed ops now appears on the ops tab if you are in a platoon. Definitely good to know there. Added commas to the ribbons screen in the stats tab. We have increased the sizes of mastery badges in the stats tab so that they are more visible. Okay, good to know at a quick glance. Being in a platoon will no longer cause your tank filters to reset after battle if you are not the platoon leader. Now, I know this one was annoying for a couple of my buddies because they actually used the filters quite a bit, and we would platoon up, and then they were just like, well, this is pointless because they just reset when we come back after a battle. So, but it sounds like they fixed it. So that's not an issue anymore, which is awesome. Performed a polish pass on the platoon UI, corrected font, adjusted spacing, adjusted colors. Sounds like just a little bit of touching up there. So that's fair enough. Now, the only real one that caught my eye there is being in a platoon will no longer cause your tank filters to reset. I remember like a couple buddies actually spent a couple minutes bitching about that. They found it pretty annoying. So that's essentially all of the patch notes available there. Like I said, no conspiracies in there whatsoever. That localization section that I'm not even going to bother looking at, that's all for differing languages, such as, looking it up in Russian or Spanish or German or whatever. Has no impact on a guy like me. If you think it does, feel free to go to the forums and read the localization section saying, you're hiding something, there's a conspiracy in there, they nerfed my tank in there. Feel free to do that. So, like I said, no conspiracies here, guys. That's pretty much all the patch notes for update 1.8. They didn't go and nerf the super Pershing. They didn't go nerf your favorite tank. Why? There were no changes done to the spotting system. It's exactly the same. All those things come up after every patch, I swear to God. Especially the super Pershing thing. I can't believe how many people post a new thread pretty much every update saying, oh my God, they nerfed the super Pershing now! And it's like, no, they didn't. It's under the patch notes. And then you get the true believers who just don't think people are capable of getting smarter that say, they didn't put it in the patch notes because they don't want you to know about it. Right? Stealth nerfs. Yeah, okay. Conspiracies, man. Let's put a quash to those, and let's stop the spread of false information. Anyways, that was a bit of a spiel there, but I hope I wasn't a complete bore. And I do appreciate you coming to check out the update 1.8 patch notes. It's really important to quash these conspiracy theories that people come up with to stop the spread of false information. When you're spreading false information, you're just reinforcing people's beliefs, unfortunately, and it helps promote poor gameplay and teamwork on their part. And it's really saddening to hear it in game chat, particularly. Anyways, that's all for tonight's video. Not really any gameplay there. I do apologize. This was probably way more boring than you guys expected. But I felt it was important to go over these. I may do these again in the future. Let me know if you want me to, or if you don't. I don't care. Leave a comment at the bottom saying, great, thanks, I didn't, because you don't go to the forums or whatever. Or don't do this again. This was a waste of time. You're a piece of shit. Feel free to say that. Doesn't matter to me. Anyways, thanks very much for watching, guys. And, yeah, you all have a good night. We'll see you next time. Mobius Y signing out.